guys, have you researched about human trafficking? And I've researched about it, and I found that sex trafficking is a huge part of human trafficking. And also sex trafficking is called as modern slavery. And does anyone who can explain about this?
Okay, I have researched about human trafficking.
Human trafficking is the illegal trade of human beings for the purpose of reproductive slavery, commercial sexual exploitation, forced labor, or a modern-day form of slavery. Trafficking protocol was adopted by UN in Palermo, Italy in 2000 and is an international legal agreement attached to UN Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime. The Trafficking Protocol is one of 3 protocols adopted on supplement the convention.
Okay, John, how about the real situation about the human trafficking?
According to the United Nations, more than 30 million modern-day slaves exist in 150 countries, which serve as a source, a destination, or transit country. This outnumbers the transatlantic slaves, which amounted up to 12 million Africans in the last 400 years. It is estimated that commercial enterprises bring in as much as $32 billion annually. Approximately 80% of today's slaves on the global market are female. The United Nations reports that human traffickers earn about $10 billion every year, and the average sale price for a slave is around $12,500. What is noticeable in human trafficking is that the value of slaves has decreased. A slave in 1850 in American South cost approximately $40,000 in today's currencies, but the cost of a slave today averages around $90. Thus, nowadays slaveholders are trying to recruit people because of much cheaper cost.
Did you go to see Pastor Edivian?
I tried to meet Pastor Edivian. He's an activist fighting against human trafficking. So I visited Onuri Church in Seoul, where he ministers. I could not meet him, so I contacted him, and then I could have the phone interview with him.
Yeah, I read the book Not for Sale by David Batson, and I became aware of the modern-day slavery issues that's happening around the world, and yeah, it got me very upset. I didn't know that it was happening, and then I was looking for churches that were doing something, but I didn't really see many churches doing anything, so we decided to try to create a ministry to deal with this issue. Well, it's the exploitation of vulnerable people to be used for selfish gain from the captors. Yeah. Sure, we have a team of about 100 people who are involved in our church ministry for this issue. We have a team that raises awareness through conferences, publications, media. So we have a research team that does documentation of slavery cases in Korea. We also have a networking and partnership group that seeks to partner with other people like law enforcement, government officials, CEOs, things like that. We send out teams for mission trips that focuses on this issue, and we partner with aftercare. Well, they can also help raise awareness for this issue, but also they can fund organizations that are trying to stop this issue. But also, you know, to report illegal activity in their communities. I'd say, yeah, 95% to 98%, I'd say yes. Human trafficking is also connected to modern-day slavery. And if it's a regular job, prostitution, then it wouldn't be slavery. But for anybody in a regular job, if they want to quit today, if they want to stop today, we could quit. But 95 to 98% of the women who work in the prostitute industry, if they want to quit today, they can't. The pimp will not allow them to. So that tells us that that's a form of slavery.
Sexual exploitation accounts for 80% of the whole number of human trafficking victims. Jisoo, can you explain the international situation about sex trafficking?
Okay, in the international perspective, sex tourism is becoming bigger and bigger. Over 800,000 people traffic across international borders every year, according to the Trafficking in Persons report in 2007. Totally 161 countries identified as affected by sex trafficking. For example, Thailand is one of the famous for tourism. Usually over 1,600 million tourists visit there every year. However, 50 to 70% of male tourists come for sexual contacts. In addition, the number of women working as prostitutes in the Philippines is estimated at over 500,000, and the number of children in prostitution is alarmingly high. I just mentioned about 2 Southeast countries as example, but there are also lots of other countries which committing sex trafficking in the world.
How about Korean situation? I researched about Koreans, and Koreans were not exception in sex trafficking, and actually Koreans are given to foreign countries.
Many Koreans visit China a lot to play golf, and according to the Korean-Chinese guide, 80% of customers visiting this resort are Koreans. Not surprisingly, almost everyone goes to the amusement quarters at night. There are more than 50 stores where sex trafficking is done frequently. This is a 5-story building with 60 rooms, and 400 women are working here. The waiter says that this store is not available on Saturday without reservation because Koreans reserve every room in advance. In addition, it is easy to see Korean men living with girls. What's more, Koreans are notorious among women working in those stores. According to one of them, she hates Korea and Koreans as she meets more and more Korean men because they ignored her and they are usually ill-mannered.
Also, I've heard that domestic sex trafficking is rampant in Korea. So as I suggested, I think it's a good chance for us to go outreach and see the real situation in Korea. So it's time to leave.
Okay.